friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's Tag Tuesday is going to be another book tag. This one is called the Mamma Mia book tag. I got it from a booktuber by the name of Ashley Outpaged, I believe her name is, like her channel name. She'll be linked in the description. The video she made was really adorable, so I highly recommend you go watch it. Moving on. Mamma Mia book tag. It's basically just, she took a bunch of the songs that are in Mamma Mia and Mamma Mia 2 and just kind of like made a question about books that are related to those songs or the themes in that song or whatever. So the first one is When I Kissed the Teacher. And that one is a book with a shocking plot twist that you did not see coming. This one I actually have two because the first one I thought of on my own, and then when I was looking for an answer for another question, I was going through my Goodreads read list, and I found this other one that I realized really shook me. The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. If you don't know Ruth Ware, I can't talk. Okay. If you don't know, Ruth Ware is a kind of thriller, mystery writer, and I love pretty much all her books. I think there's only one of her books out that I haven't read yet, just because I just haven't been able to. And so The Woman in Cabin 10 is about this woman who goes on a cruise. It's not just a normal cruise though, it's a cruise and the only people on the cruise are media people and rich influential people. I forget what the purpose of the cruise is. I don't know if I think he's just, there's a millionaire and he's just trying I don't remember it super duper well because I read it I think last year or even before that. But anyway, she's on this cruise and she's getting settled down the first night in, and then all of a sudden she hears a big splash and coming from outside of her door. She goes and looks and the door to the next room over is open, and so she kind of figures that it sounded like it was a big splash, so she thinks that someone might have gotten thrown overboard, and so she starts investigating and asking what's going on and asking who was even in cabin 10 because she never saw anyone go in there and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a whodunit, kind of what even happened kind of story. And that's just kind of a perfect encapsulation of what kind of a writer Ruth Ware is, where it's the whole time you think you know what's going on, and then just everything about the plot just gets totally flipped. So yeah, that was a really good book. And then the second book I thought of is a plot twist for another entirely different reason. It's called The Little Dragons, written by Rowan Starsmith. This is a book that I got for free off of the Apple bookstore. And yeah, it starts off really good. It's in a fantastical world that has dragons in it. And it used to be that dragons and humans kind of lived in harmony. There's people called the dragon priestesses, and they would kind of communicate between the dragons and the humans, work out, sacrifices to give to the dragons so the dragons don't eat the humans and stuff like that. But the book actually takes place later in that happens in the past, and this is in the future, or the present I guess, where the dragon priestesses were destroyed, and the dragons now just kind of hunt humans like they would normally because they don't have any sort of connection to humans anymore. So humans are forced to only go outside during the night, sleep during the day, because that's when the dragons are hunting, is during the day, and all this stuff. And you start figuring out what happened to the dragon priestesses and how do we get them back and stuff like that. And then, spoiler alert, so yeah, there's one good plot twist that made me just enjoy the book even more, and one plot twist that made me question everything. Number 2 is Waterloo, and it is a book you're positive you're going to love. For this one I chose A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I think I'm gonna like this book. I've been kind of getting more into sci-fi. Normally I'm a strictly fantasy person, but I've been reading a lot more sci-fi, spacey, technology, future stuff, as opposed to just dragons and witches and whatever. So that's one point in its favor. Another point is that every booktuber I've heard talk about this book and all the reviews on its Goodreads page are just phenomenal. They're just over the top. This book's amazing. I love this book. It's amazing, blah, blah, blah. A couple weeks ago I did the Hopeful book tag, and I watched 2 other booktubers' version of that tag, and both of them chose that book for something in that book tag. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading that one. So the next one is Why Did It Have to Be Me? And this is a book that I go back to when I'm in a slump of reading. For this one I don't have a specific book, but kind of I guess a series of books. Whenever I kind of feel I haven't read a book in a while, or I just kind of don't feel like reading anything, I'll read a Nancy Drew book. I will try to buy a new one, or maybe get one from the library or whatever. I love Nancy Drew. I love all the books. They're very easy reads. The hardest part about them is that they're a bit dated, obviously. So some of the turns of phrase are kind of I don't know what they mean and stuff like that. But that's the hardest part about reading them. As far as plot goes, they're all pretty formulaic. They're very formulaic. Yeah. So that's kind of what I usually try to read when I need to get back to it. Number 4 is I Have a Dream, and it is name a book character that inspires you. I think we all know who I'm going to choose. Hermione Granger has always been a very important person in my life. When I was younger, I liked reading, and I was a bit of a nerd and a bit of a know-it-all. I like really identified with her because even though she was all those things, she still had friends, and she still, you know, was able to help them and be a good friend in return and kind of develop. And then she grew up into a young woman who was very strong and powerful and fought no matter what and was brave. And so yeah, Hermione Granger inspires me. Number 5 is a song I've never heard of, so I'm probably going to pronounce it wrong, but it's Andante Andante. Name your current read. I'm actually reading a self-help book right now. It's called Self-Compassion, The Proven Power of Being Kind to Yourself by Kristen Neff. I'm kind of on a kick of reading books about, like, you know, getting over depression and stuff like that, because I realized that I spend a lot of my time reading, and reading impacts me a lot more than like other types of media. So I've been reading a lot about that, and this one is all about treating yourself with compassion. It's really good. I'm finding it really helpful. Number 6 is Knowing Me, Knowing You. And that is a book you had to break up with and DNF. For this one I chose Dire Consequences by Maggie Sefton. It is number 5 or 6 in a series that I don't even remember the name of. So this is a book where all of the titles of the book, or a series where all the titles of the books are puns on knitting. And so I was reading them, and they were like fine, they were okay, they were pretty weak, but they were mysteries. The main character is kind of like an HG type, where she's not like technically a detective, like she doesn't work for the police or anything like that, but she kind of turns into one and like starts helping the police, which I liked, but she's just not a good character. It's just, basically I was like reading them, and I would always look at the Goodreads page, and I would see all these like criticisms come up over and over and over again, and I just kept thinking, like, just stop reading it, like no one's forcing you to read it. And then I would keep reading it, and just like I kept like marking it as like 3 stars and like that on Goodreads. And then I got to this one, and it was just like, I don't want to read this anymore. I'm not enjoying this anymore. Like, I barely ever was. Like, I'm just kind of doing it because I think the titles are funny, and I would like to see this. Like, I was kind of invested in the main character. Like, I wanted to see her be happy, but the books were so heavily influenced, or so heavily focused on the story of the book as opposed to her story as an arc. And I was just like, I can't, because there's a ton of more books in that series. I don't even know how many, a million. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna stop. And then I just stopped, like about halfway through, I think. Number 7 is Mamma Mia. And this one is a book that I recently reread. Recently I haven't actually been rereading a lot because I've been going to the library and getting new books, but the most recent books that I reread were the Harry Potter series. So I guess the last one would have been Deathly Hallows. I was reading them actually out loud to Nick when we were driving to Sarnia or back. I would just read them out loud to him the whole way there and back. It took us about a year to read all 7 books, but I think it was worth it. Number 8 is Dancing Queen, and that is a book that made you want to dance around the room. So the original maker of this tag used a book that was really cute and adorable, and it was like a manga about like a couple, and you know, she just really liked them and thought they were really cute and adorable and pure. Mine's kind of different to that like interpretation of the question. My book is One Kick by Chelsea Kane. It is a story about a woman who when she was a child, she was part of a pedophile ring. She was kidnapped and she was held captive by a pedophile. When her pedophile was caught, like when her captor was caught, she was the one who actually went and deleted all the files off of her captor's computer, because she had been trying to do that by him, and because of that it was not a big of a bust as it could have been. Like, it could have led them to like a bunch of other pedophiles, but it didn't. The book actually happens when she's an adult, and she's kind of like, she's working on she's working to kind of clean up that mess that her young naive, not knowing any better, trusting her captor because that's all she knew self did. And so she ends up working with this organization to try to take down more pedophiles, and to try to like follow the ring where it goes and save more kids and stuff like that. So the reason why such a terribly morbid and depressing book made me want to dance around the room is because of Kick. She is amazing. She is a great female character. She is someone who has been through horrible trauma, absolutely terrible, horrible trauma that I can't even think about because it's just sick, and they handle it really well. She has mental health issues, she has anxiety, she has a bit of PTSD, like she has flashbacks and such, and she struggles a lot, but she has coping mechanisms that she uses. She has taken her trauma and she's using it to better the world around her. She has strengthened herself through it. Obviously she's still struggling a little bit with that, but it was just such a good female character who you could really like look up to, and especially if you were someone who grew up and had trauma when you were a child and you kind of feel lost now, I feel like you could read this book and see how she is taking her trauma and using it to strengthen herself, to bolster herself. So I don't know if it really made me want to dance around the room as much as just be like, yes! But that's what I thought of. Number 9 is Super Trooper, and that is a book series that I have not finished due to its huge size. I don't really have like a series like this where it's like I've been trying to read it for years, except for technically I guess Nancy Drew. I don't really count that because it's not necessarily like a series in the typical sense where it's like the stories lead directly into each other. So there's always like integration of the different stories, but it's not like in the same way that like Harry Potter is a series, or the same way that like, you know what I mean? Like I don't feel like you can read them out of order and it doesn't matter, kind of thing. The other series that I'm kind of working on doing reading is The Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel by Michael Scott. That is not necessarily due to its size, more to the fact that it is really hard to come by. So yeah, that is all of the questions. I realized that I love talking about books, and I apparently can talk about books for a really long time, so this will probably get edited down quite a lot hopefully and not be as long as it's taking me to record it. But yeah, anyways, if you guys have any comments or questions about the books that I was talking about in this tag, comment down below. If you have any recommendations based on kind of what I was saying about the books, and kind of if you've gleaned anything that you think I might like, please leave it in the comments. I'm always looking for new recommendations of books I should try to read, and yeah, I will see you in the next video. Later days.